And Eagles fans aren't going to like this, but I said it to Jody in the opening. I don't know if you heard it. The Eagles have a pretty good general manager. Are Philadelphia fans going to figure that out quickly, or are they ever going to figure it out?
I don't know if Philadelphia fans are ever going to figure out anything sometimes.
You got your Mac guys, McDonald and McMullen on Birds 365, day after day one of the draft. And we got to day two of the draft with our next guest. But first thing first, got to review what the Eagles got done last night, which both John and I agree was plenty. We'll see if Jeff Kerr says the same. He's here with us on Birds 365. All right, looking at it through Eagle-colored glasses, Jeff Kerr, how good was last night's night one of the NFL draft for the Birds?
Well, between that and the Sixers blowing out the Raptors by 30 points, I say it was a home run of a night. And luckily, they got a home run player in A.J. Brown. But I got to tell you guys a funny story about this whole thing. So that's going on. And I wrote a story earlier this week on CBSSports.com about Hurts throwing to A.J. Brown. And I went and contacted a couple people I knew down there, in Nashville, because I know, Brown and Hurts were close. I didn't realize how close they actually were. Hurts was at Brown's draft party when he was picked by the Titans at number 51 3 years ago. And Hurts was actually throwing to Brown that same weekend that he was attending Brown's daughter's birthday party. So they were pretty close. And I asked around, I'm like, is there any, can we say if there's going to be any trade speculation in this? They're like, well, I think the Eagles would want to make that happen. I'm like, okay. Well, so when that trade actually went down, I'm like, after Jameson Williams was picked, because the Eagles made the trade after the Lions traded up, I'm like, I wonder if they're actually trying to get A.J. Brown. Well, they got A.J. Brown, so it all seemed to work out.
Yeah, I did, because I heard some of the same stuff, Jeff, when Jalen was seen throwing to AJ and how close they were. But, that's one of the strengths of Jalen Hurts. If you just gathered players he was close to, you couldn't whittle it down to 53. Everybody likes the guy. So you still got to go about it from a football perspective. And the surprising part to me was that the Eagles went into this wide receiver market that we talked about in the offseason that has gone crazy. Starting with Devontae Adams and then Tyreek Hill saying, oh, hold on, Kansas City. Look what Devontae Adams got. I want this. And all of a sudden he's in Miami, Stephon Diggs, et cetera, et cetera. And Howie Roseman stood up in front. What do I always say, Jody, when you're in front of the microphone? You aren't under oath. Yeah. He lied to us. He said, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to let other people dictate to us. And all of a sudden, bang. 4 years, $100 million, $57 million guaranteed for a run-first offense. Now, two things that tells me. They're not going to be a run-first offense for long, so Jalen Hurts better improve, or A.J. Brown's going to have to get close to somebody else very, very quickly. But when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, you need some targets, Jeff Kerr.
Yeah, you do. And I agree with you, John. Jalen Hurts got to get more accurate. He has to get more accurate, especially on the deep pass, because I looked up the numbers last night. A.J. Brown in the Super Bowl era, for players that have 175 or more receptions in their first 3 years, there aren't many players ahead of A.J. Brown in yards per catch. It's Randy Moss, Jerry Rice. These are the people here. John Jefferson. These are the people that are ahead of him. He is a damn good receiver. And Jalen Hurts has to be accurate. Bottom line, I love how the Eagles did this, because they should have did this for Donovan McNabb when he was going into year 3 20 years ago. This is why the Eagles did not get a Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb, because that brain trust in there, Joe Banner and Andy Reid said, we're good. We improved with James Thrash and a guy we like in the second round, Todd Pinkston, and we drafted Freddie Mitchell in the first round. Howie Roseman did not do that. He made his first round mistake with Jalen Reagor. He made it up for it with Devonta Smith. Then he said, you know what? I don't think we can get any of these guys on the board. we're talking Tennessee about A.J. Brown. Let's go get the established veteran and pay him, and let's see what Jalen Hurts is made of. That's why I love the move.
As do most Eagle fans, as they should, because Howie fainted on us. He faked this out. We didn't think he was going veteran wide receiver, but sure enough, he got the job done, and he got a top wide receiver at that. But he does have to pay him. So let me ask you about the Eagles' cap situation. As we sit here going into the day two, they still need another cornerback, if not two, another safety, if not two. They did not get the edge pass rusher, which we all thought they were going to do. So they got some work to do. We've been throwing it back and forth for a couple of weeks now. Ooh, could Honey Badger be that guy? Could his price come down just enough to Howie Roseman be able to say, all right, yeah, I can spend that at safety. When you lay that kind of money out for A.J. Brown, it makes Honey Badger a little bit of a further away dream, does it not?
I kind of think the opposite. I think that proves that the Eagles want to win now more than, we want to win 3 years from now. I think the cap situation is going to be a lot harder, but I think this puts Honey Badger in play. But again, we got to see what they do on day two tonight. You got guys like Jalen Petrie still available. Let's see if they draft the safety. Let's see if they draft the quarterback. They're going to have to fill one of those slots in free agency. And Honey Badger's still there. Tyrann Mathieu is still there. And I know there's interest in him. I'm pretty sure there's interest in his camp too with the Eagles. But again, this is what scares me with Honey Badger still being a free agent. I was in on the Chiefs news conference last week, and Brett Veach did not rule out a reunion there. So if you got to compete with the Chiefs, who he liked, he really didn't want to leave in the first place, it may be tough. So you probably will have to fill those holes in the draft. And you gave up a lot of draft picks over last night. You gave up 101. You gave up 18. And again, you got A.J. Brown, so you can't complain about that. But you gave up a lot to get Jordan Davis. And I know the Eagles still have their second and their third round pick, but there's still a lot of holes on this team that need to be plugged in.
Yeah, it was interesting because when they moved up to get Jordan Davis, which I projected they'd go up to 13 and give up 101, because if you look at the trade chart, it's probably an earlier fourth round pick that would match up, but the Eagles didn't have that. They were a little bit too late in the fourth round. And I said, well, you got to pay a little bit of a penalty for a player you really like. Turns out Howie needed that 101st pick to swing things with Tennessee. This guy really is a magician on draft night. He's got two balls in the air. He's juggling. And Eagles fans aren't going to like this, but I said it to Jody in the opening. I don't know if you heard it. The Eagles have a pretty good general manager. Are Philadelphia fans going to figure that out quickly, or are they ever going to figure it out?
I don't know if Philadelphia fans are ever going to figure out anything sometimes. When the Sixers, I'll go to a basketball thing. When the Sixers are blowing a 3-0 lead, and they weren't, everybody's panicking because they played bad in the game 5. And I'm thinking to myself, they still got to lose 2 more games. It's just not going to happen in the NBA. And lo and behold, they blow out Toronto in game 6. I just think Philly fans like to overreact, and they just need to sit down, take a breath, use those Aaron Rodgers words, RELAX, and just think critically a little bit. They have a good general manager. They do. He's a top 10 general manager in this league. When I put 15 general managers up, and I said, okay, Howie Roseman's probably in the middle. Well, he's not better than this guy. He's not better than this guy. I'm like, I just said he's in the middle, so he's probably 7 or 8. I just don't understand what the context, what context you're trying to make here, other than trying to slam Howie Roseman for whatever reason. He's a good general manager. Is he great? No. Is he terrible? Heck no. But he's a good general manager, and good general managers, they don't bluff. And Howie Roseman, I'm going to point this out. Howie Roseman traded 2 draft picks for A.J. Brown. The Miami Dolphins traded 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill because they panicked. They wanted them. A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, look, Tyreek Hill's going toward 30. A.J. Brown's not even 25 yet. He turns 25 in June. The best years are coming with A.J. Brown. Tyreek Hill, the Dolphins are probably only getting maybe 2-3 really good years of him.
And hopefully the Eagles get more from that out of A.J. Brown, because you're right, he is young. I do want to ask about Jordan Davis this year. You mentioned you think the Eagles are, with a move like getting A.J. Brown, you're declaring yourself as in for this year. How much are they going to be able to get out of Davis? What do you expect for Davis this first year? You've got your 2 starting tackles already in place. Everyone in the National Football League, certainly Eagles included, rotate guys at the tackle position. How much is Davis going to play for the Eagles? What do you think the expectations realistically should be for him as far as production goes?
So as far as production, when I was watching a lot of Jordan Davis stuff, because again, McMullen's hearing the same thing if they trade up, it's probably for a guy like Jordan Davis. And so I'm rewatching a couple of Georgia games over the last couple of weeks, and he doesn't play much. He rotates a lot. And when he played in 2020, I think was the most snaps he got in a season, he was on and off. He was inconsistent. But when he's in a rotation, when he comes in the game, he does make an impact. Even though he's not putting up the numbers, he's excellent in the A-gap. Excellent run stuffer, by the way. But I think what's the big attraction with Jordan Davis is, besides the physical freak, I mean, he's an athlete. I'll say that. I think Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, those edge rushers are going to produce because of what the Eagles got coming at the middle with Fletcher Cox, with Jordan Davis, with Javon Hargrave. And I'm not expecting like this monster year from him out of year one, but I do expect their run defense to be significantly better. And I think Hassan Reddick and those guys are going to benefit on the edge because you got to account for what's in the middle. I mean, if you let Jordan Davis go untouched, he's going to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jeff, because I think you hit his floor, and that would be the great run stuffer as a 2-down guy. That's his floor as a player. And look, he had some conditioning problems at Georgia because he wasn't used to playing a lot. The SEC championship game, probably most notably, because that was the one game Georgia struggled in, and he had to play more than he normally has to play, and he didn't necessarily look great at times because he probably was a little bit tired. He took all the criticism about people asking him, are you a 2-down player? I think he took it well. That's why he got in such great shape. And he's running the 4.78s in the pre-draft process, went down to the Senior Bowl combine. He's this phenomenal athlete. So if that light switch went off, then the ceiling of this player. But I think when you have the floor is a B2B type run stuffer, that's a pretty good floor. That is a pretty good floor for a player, even though it's a 2-down player. That's how I look at Jordan Davis.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of look at it as, and again, it's not a fair comparison because they're different players. But when Eagles drafted Corey Simon, number 6 overall, I remember them saying he was dominant pass rusher, but he's terrible against the run. Well, Corey Simon ended up being a pretty good run stopper with Jim Johnson in those years. And if you get Jordan Davis to be a pretty good pass rusher with his run stopping skills, you're going to have yourself a Pro Bowl defensive tackle in that system, because I think that system is tailor-made for Jordan Davis to succeed. Now, there's only one issue I had with this whole trade. When I saw Kyle Hamilton at 13, I'm like, I know they're not going to pick him. I know they're not going to pick him.
I knew they weren't going to pick him, so it didn't bother me. But I see why it bothers other people. I will say that.
Yeah, and I just thought because they needed a safety, and he was a game changer. And I'll tell you what, I love that Ravens pick of him, though. Him and Marcus.
The Ravens, people just give good football players to the Ravens.
They really do. And
the Ravens wanted Jordan Davis. I mean, I think Calais Campbell was on after. It's like, I thought we were going to get him. And the Eagles were right. They had to go up in front of Baltimore. But, Baltimore lucks into Kyle Hamilton, whatever you want to call it. Then later in the draft, they get back in and get Tyler Linderbaum, who everybody's down on. And I didn't think he should have been a mid-range first pick. Jody knows that, but because I think he's too undersized. But now that Baltimore got him, I know he's going to be a good player.
He'll be good on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Lamar doesn't have anybody to throw to anymore, but he's certainly going to be protected.
Right. And I was on CBS last night, And I got more Ravens calls than anything else. I guess we were cleared in the Baltimore market last night. Got a bunch of Ravens calls. Do you think they got enough in return for Hollywood Brown and a third? Get you a first round pick, not even a top mid to late first round pick. I didn't think that was a great trade. Now, I like both players that they got. I love Hamilton. You and I both, John. And Linderbaum, best center in the draft. I don't think the underside is going to be a worry for them. I think they got a good, solid player, but not anything that's going to wow anybody. I thought they had a good night last night, but I didn't like the Hollywood Brown trade.
So what makes this really tough for the Ravens is, and I don't know if you heard this, McMullen. Do you know Hollywood Brown was at the Cardinals draft party? Like, this trade was in the works for a couple days now. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's Hollywood Brown. What's he doing there? He's still a Raven. And then he was asked about, Eric DeCosta was asked about it. And he's like, yeah, we had to, I appreciate everybody kind of keeping this hush-hush. We had to calm Lamar down. I'm like, oh, great. So apparently they kind of knew all this and that this was going down and Lamar Jackson was going to lose his buddy and his top receiver. So I don't know what Baltimore's going to do. Maybe now all of a sudden they're in on the Deebo Samuel suite. Who knows? But yeah, I just don't think they got enough. But Baltimore said Hollywood Brown did not want to be there anymore. He wanted out. So
yeah,
kind of like AJ Brown. What do you do?
Yeah, it's the player empowerment era, guys. He is coming off. I thought Hollywood Brown was kind of a little bit of a disappointment in his first two seasons. And I get, he had a pretty good year last year. So, hopefully it works out for both sides. But just talking from, getting good football players, the Ravens tend to get good football players. And to get Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum, probably two of the cleaner prospects, I would say, from talking to scouts all the time in the draft. They seem very Baltimore-centric like picks, and people keep funneling good players. So they'll find a receiver. But, yeah, I mean, Arizona's got to make Kyler happy. Baltimore probably made Lamar a little bit unhappy. There's always, two sides to these types of trades. No question about that.
Yeah, and another thing on the Kyle Hamilton, Kyle Hamilton said last night, I can't wait to start talking to Ed Reed. I'm like, here we go. It's like you said, they get good players, John. They do. They just fall into their lap. I don't know how Kyle Hamilton fell to number 14 and
God, I think it's ridiculous. I told Jody, I was comparing bad GMs, Mickey Loomis, a rookie, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah went from he went down 20 spots in the first round, Jeff. Took a safety with Kyle Hamilton still on the board. Could have had Kyle Hamilton at 12 to go up. So he goes down 20 spots in the first round to go up 14 spots in the second round. And he got an extra third round pick at 66. I mean,
it didn't make sense. I'm like, wait, they picked the safety? Yeah. I remember I'm still writing up Chiefs stuff at that point,
Yeah.
When Chiefs got Kerfoffis, I'm like, okay, they had an excellent draft. And then I'm like, wait, they just picked a safety? They could have had one at 12.
Yeah. And by the way, Dax Hill went at 31.
Who's a good player.
Yeah. And I could almost bet they wanted Dax Hill, and then he panicked and had to take the next best safety at 32. And there's a rookie GM versus a savvy GM, like Howie Roseman. There's a perfect example.
How do you take Chris Olave over Jameson Williams, by the way? So if we're talking about Mickey Loomis, it's
unbelievable. From the pre-draft trade to what they did on draft night. I mean, he thinks they're the Rams, evidently. He thinks, oh, we're ready. We just got to fit a couple spots.
I hope he's aware this team is not good and that head coach is not good. They might be in for a little shocker.
He is clearly not aware of that. He is clearly not aware of that.
If there was a team, I would bet.
You got to give the coach a chance here. You've already written him off before he coaches one game.
24 in his career. He had his.
Yeah, he was a pretty bad head coach the first time, but yeah, I mean, he could maybe learned. We'll give him a couple games, but overall, yeah. I mean, the Saints. I can't figure them out. They get Trevor Penning, who makes at least a little bit more sense because you need to start replacing Teron Armstead. But I don't. I can't figure out what he was trying to accomplish in this draft.
Do they think Cam Jordan's just going to hit the fountain of youth every single year? I mean, he's still a really good player, but he's also 33 years old. I know he's still one of the best edge rushers in the game, but he's 33. You got to replace him.
By the way, we were talking about this last night. I think Zach Berman and I. One of my favorite draft stories. I got to tell this real quick because it's such a great story. Because you brought up Cam Jordan. He was a first-round pick, as you mentioned, great player. So he gets drafted, gets the call, New Orleans Saints, and then I think it was the 5th round. He gets another call, and I believe it was Cleveland. I forget. We're going to draft you. They got the names mixed up. They were drafting Jordan Cameron, and they called up Cam Jordan again. So he got drafted twice in the same draft.
Didn't they put Cameron Jordan on the draft card too?
Probably. I don't know that part, but they called him and said, "We're going to draft you." And he said, "I got drafted in the 1st round."
That's a bit of an issue. You got to get your paperwork right. All right, paperwork, Kerr. Who's getting the first paperwork handed in at quarterback in round number 2? Only one went in round 1. Kenny Pickett's homeboy staying home in Pittsburgh. All the other quarterbacks still on the board. Is there a run coming today? Are we really going to see what people think of this draft class and have to wait for another quarterback to come off the boards? There's a couple teams at the top of the 2nd round who I could theorize or should be interested in a quarterback. How big is that position, which we always think is the most important position? It's turned out not to be in this year's draft, and good on the NFL. They didn't force feed anything. Is the 2nd round considered force feeding?
I don't think so. I think Malik Willis is exactly what he is, a 2nd round quarterback. I think he's a guy with a lot of potential, but I think there's going to be teams at the top of that 2nd round looking to draft him now that you don't have to give him that 5th-year player option anymore. He's not a 1st round pick. He's more of a project. And I think the Detroit Lions still have their pick. I can't remember. They might have traded.
No, they traded it to go up.
Right, they're out.
To go up.
Yeah, so they're out. Okay. Maybe the Atlanta Falcons could be interested in that. They still kind of need a quarterback. I know they have a starter, but
I'll tell you where it might start, guys, is 36 in the New York Giants after the news that they're not going to pick up the 5th-year option on Daniel Jones. So he's on, he's on notice.
It kills me to say they had a great draft because they did have a great draft. They got Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal.
Well, it's a lot easier when you have 2 picks that high. I mean, that helps. But yeah. And that it's a smart way to build your team because we know from Philadelphia, offensive line, defensive line, they got both. I think Joe Schoen is doing a good job there, but they could be a sneaky quarterback team here at the top of the 2nd round. And then you have the Seahawks. I think they will take a quarterback. I think they're at 40. The Colts, need a developmental guy because Matt Ryan's not getting any younger. And then the Lions are down at 44, 45, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, they're in the middle now. So.
Yeah. So they could still get one of the quarterbacks as well. So I do think you're going to see a run today, Jody.
By the way, I didn't get a lot of picks right in my mock draft, but I did get Kenny Pickett to Pittsburgh, and I have to.
I was buying the Malik Willis hype to Pittsburgh, and I thought he would fall, so I got that one wrong.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy that Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback drafted in the 1st round because I think he was the only quarterback worth drafting in the 1st round, and I think he went exactly where he went. I think that's going to be a good marriage in Pittsburgh. He already was there. He's actually going to play in front of fans at Heinz Field now. Let's just say that.
All right, let's talk about the Birds with the 2nd round. They got a defensive tackle, which I'm not going to call it a luxury pick, but it doesn't fill an immediate need. Fills an overall need because how many years are you going to get out of either Fletcher Cox or Jason Hargrove? There's a chance it's going to be one apiece. So I'm not going to pick. I'm just saying it doesn't fill an immediate 2022 must-have need. They still have that at cornerback. They still have that at safety. I think they need more depth at defensive end and an edge pass rusher, which Johnny Mac, you and I discussed. If one of those 5 pass rushers, all right, take Karlaftis off the board. If one of those 4 pass rushers are there, how do they pass? They passed. Jermaine Johnson was still there on the board. They decided to go inside rather than outside. What are they going to do with this second-round pick at number 51, Jeff Kerr? Is it going to be just the best available player on their board at one of those position needs? Do they try and maneuver to get a specific guy here in the second round? They've got less draft capital to work with to make the 2 trades they made last night. They had to give up some depth, so I don't know. They'd have to go future picks, and I don't know if teams want to do that. How do you think the Eagles play their pick at 51?
I think they're going to have to see how this market plays out. I think they got to hope for this run of quarterbacks to happen so they can go get, maybe there's still a couple safeties I like on the board. There's a couple cornerbacks, and, I don't think they could be starters right away, but I think that they're better than what they have, which, again, I agree with you, Jody. They need secondary help badly. I'll tell you one candidate I would trade up for, and that's Nakobe Dean. I don't know how the heck he's in the second round of the draft right now, but he could be the first player selected tonight. I really feel Nakobe Dean is going to be an instant impact player in this league for a long time. Of the 5 defensive players from Georgia that got picked in the first round, I'm shocked he wasn't one of them.
It pains me to say this, but doesn't Nakobe Dean seem like a Tampa Bay Buccaneer player?
Yes,
they got the first pick in the second round, and he seems like their type of a player on defense, which I don't want to see because I'm a Dean fan like you are, Jeff. There's no way the Eagles will get him. He's off the board before they can even maneuver into position.
Yeah,
I'm going to go. The Bucs have too many linebackers but I agree with you but they just don't have a need. I'm going to go corner. That's the problem. I'm going to go corner. Because it's 33 is Tampa, 34 is now Minnesota, who's desperate for corners. So I'm going to go Andrew Booth coming off the board right away, and then Kyler Gordon. And then you got to hope if you're the Eagles.
In the second round too. I keep forgetting that.
For
some reason last night I was losing track and I thought he was picked.
Yeah, a lot of people had him as a potential first round pick. I'm among them. You talk about edge rushers, Jody. Boye Mafe still out there. He might get to the Eagles' range. And we got to talk about David Ojabo. And then the safeties. If Jalen Petrie comes down or Jaquan Brisker for Penn State. But
there's another pass rusher I think will be taken before the Eagles pick. I can never say his last name, and I'm a Penn State fan and graduated from there. Arnold
Abitki. Gotcha. We know what you're talking about.
Right. I never.
Yeah, I think he's going to go pretty quick though. Abikidi. I think he's going to go pretty quick. Probably top 5, I would say.
I can see Tampa getting him too. Honestly, there's a lot of players that I feel the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can get with this pick.
If the Buccaneers are not taking Nakobe Dean, because you're right, John, they're pretty good at linebacker. Certainly would be an immediate need. Oh, they're a team that I think could afford to take the Ojabo weight and not sweat it at all.
Yeah, they could. Yeah.
They like guys coming off the board. They didn't re-sign JPP, did they? He's still out there on the open market.
I don't think so. They didn't re-sign him or Ndamukong Suh, right?
Ndamukong Suh, from what I heard, he wants to come back, but they're kind of. I think Tampa wants to bring him back. I just think maybe they're waiting at this point. I still don't know what's going to happen with Gronk. I thought the Gronk twice this offseason. I still don't know what he's doing.
Gronk's going to show up like mid-August, so he doesn't have to be bothered with camp. He's going to get a hall pass from Brady to show up 2 weeks before the season starts, and he'll be back in that Tampa.
Well, one of the only negatives about what the Eagles did last night was they gave up a ton of picks. So now it has to be far more focused. They have 2 tonight, 51 and 83, and 2 on day 3, 154 and 237. Now, Howie joked with Andy Waddle after he said, sorry to the personnel department for giving up all the picks. And then he said, I'll get you back. So I would expect more movement today or day 3. They're going to add more picks and get back in. Jalen Reagor could be on the move. Andre Dillard could be on the move. Even Nate Herbig, now he signed his tender. He could be on the move in an offensive line deficient league. So maybe use some players to get some extra picks back.
I'm curious. Do you think we could get anything to get Jalen Reagor on Birds 365? Do you think people would actually tune in to listen to him?
Oh, they would love it. They would love it. If Jalen's listening, I'd love to get you on. And Jalen's actually a really, really good guy. I think people don't realize. To me, I look at Jalen Reagor and it's more. I don't want to compare him to Ben Simmons, but only in this way. It's more of a mental block than anything else. And I just think he needs a new, a new start somewhere else.
For him is it's no fault of his own that Howie Roseman and Doug Pearson picked him over Justin Jefferson. That is not his fault.
No, not at all.
But he's going to get compared to it. So you're right. I think a fresh start would really help him. I don't think his career's over yet.
Well, I'm not sure if it is, but we had Brandon Lee Gouton on last week, and I hated to do it, but I agreed with BLG. There are times where it just seems like Reagor's not going 100%. How can you be a guy in your second year in the league as a first-round draft pick, as a guy who's not putting up numbers, and not go 100% anytime you're on the field? I thought it was very legit.
Yeah, I mentioned that day. I love BLG, Jody, but I disagree with him there. I think people mistake uncertainty for not he's uncertain. He's always thinking. He's not just playing the game, and that's that mental hump I'm talking about. I mean, the guy's in great shape. He keeps himself in phenomenal shape. He's a great athlete. He's working. I don't see that part of it. I just think he plays with this uncertainty. And if you play with one tick of uncertainty in the NFL, you're done on a particular play. Well, and that's sort of where he is.
What upset me with the whole Jalen Reagor thing over the last 2 years is I thought he would be more equipped to succeed in this league because his dad is in this league. And his dad was a pretty good player for a long time, Monte. So I thought he would help him out a lot. And I think he still does, but
he does. Monte's very involved.
Yeah.
Very involved.
Just over the years, you think the father-son thing would – usually the son does a lot better in the NFL than the father a lot of times. And Monte was a pretty good player for a lot of years.
He was. And I'll just say this real quick, Jody. Monte loves his son, maybe to a degree where it hurts his son, because there's no constructive criticism. I'll say it that way.
No, we've been through that before. Ben Simmons here in town. Quickie, if Dillard gets traded, what are the Eagles getting back in return? Both you guys.
I think you can get a day 3 pick, maybe a 4th.
I think a 4th rounder at this stage. I think they might hold out for more. It would obviously have to be most likely at this point, unless you do it in the 3rd round. I think they'd like a 3rd rounder because of the value of the position and how many teams have bad offensive tackles. But I think they take a 4.
And then they have all night tonight to negotiate a 4 with whoever needs one. That's probably more likely. Jeff Kerr, good stuff, as always. Good to catch up today, bud. We'll get you up in a week or so again. Thanks for jumping on with us tonight. We'll be reading you on CBS tonight.
Anytime, Jody Mack. I'll say this. I think the Eagles probably made their biggest trade since they traded for Terrell Owens.
Which
Don't
one?
put too much. T.O. was pretty good, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, he was. But in terms of shock value, this was definitely higher than T.O., but I think A.J. Brown can make that T.O. type of impact for this franchise. I really do.
Got to give props where props is due. Howie Roseman not only got the deal done, but kept the deal under wraps. John McMullen didn't know. Jeff Kerr didn't know. I sure as hell didn't know. Nobody knew. So good on Howie Roseman for not only getting it done, but getting it done without it leaking out, which just doesn't happen in sports anymore these days. Thanks for leaking in with us, Kerr. We'll talk to you again soon, buddy.
Talk to you guys soon.
That is Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com. hopping aboard with us here on Birds 365. All right, McDonald, McMullen, come back. We've got Ed Kratz joining us less than 25 minutes from now. I do want to hit on a couple other things in the NFL draft last night. We've done Eagles straight for an hour now. I would call the Eagles one of the big winners of day one of the draft. There were a couple other ones, one of which was, yes, in the Eagles division, but the other two teams in the Eagles division, I don't think did much of anything at all. We'll come back, go through some overall NFL draft stuff next here on Birds 365.